Okay, let's talk about yoga and Pilates. I won't lie, this is definitely not my area of expertise, though I have had a little bit of a go at both of them in the past. So firstly, let's talk about what's the differences. Sometimes the two are kind of used a little bit interchangeably. I think I'll have a go at yoga or Pilates, as if they're more or less the same thing. And there is a distinct difference between the two. Firstly, yoga is much, much older. We're talking thousands of years, as opposed to Pilates, where we're talking sort of 100 years or so. And yoga started out as a much more spiritual practice, and still is. You have the yogis that practice it, that are very much into kind of mindfulness and holistic health and stuff like that. Whereas Pilates was invented by a fellow called Joseph Pilates, and it was invented as a means of improving core strength and for use in rehabilitation kind of stuff, really. So yeah, yoga will focus more on stretches and on flexibility and on improving your range of movement, whereas Pilates tends to be more static holds, holding in one position, things like planks, where you're working on engaging your core muscles and making them work to hold you tight, and as a result of that it can improve your balance and will obviously improve your core strength in general. There are also differences in the breathing techniques that are used. Again, not my area of expertise, but what I found when I did it is a word of advice, really. I wouldn't do the two interchangeably, Pilates one day of the week and yoga on another day of the week, because if you're anything like me, you will get yourself in a complete mess. I'm still not entirely sure I understand the breathing techniques, but as memory serves me, one of them you breathe in as you perform the exercise and then out as you let go, and the other one you breathe out as you perform the exercise and breathe in as you let go. I don't know, it's opposites, and if you're trying to do the two of them interchangeably, you'll forget whether you're meant to be breathing in or out and what you're doing. So I would definitely recommend it, choosing the one that you think is most suited to your goals, and just have a go at that and get familiar with it before you try and do the other one, otherwise you might get in a pickle. So let's talk about the negatives, the cons. I always like to start with the cons so that I can finish with the positives. And there aren't that many, to be honest, with yoga and Pilates. There's not too much bad to say about them. I would say if you have trouble getting up and down off of the floor, or staying on the floor, lying on your back, things like that, then obviously that could be a potential hurdle to you enjoying this. There's no cardiovascular benefit, really. Okay, it's an anaerobic exercise. We're not getting out of breath doing this. We're not challenging the heart, the lungs, and our cardiovascular system particularly. So it's not going to improve that aspect of your health. There's very minimal strength benefits as well. So as I mentioned, Pilates is a little bit better for strength than yoga, and you will get the core strength, but it's not really working your limbs as much, in the sense that they're not terribly weight bearing or resistance bearing, so you won't see a lot of muscle growth or a lot of strength improvements in that respect from doing yoga or Pilates. If you're doing it in a class setting, in a gym or in a community hall or something like that, it's probably one of the forms of exercise where you might feel a little bit more self-conscious. It tends to be very much the world of lycra, they're called yoga pants. So there is that. You don't have to wear lycra. You could turn up in some looser fitting clothing. I like looser fitting clothing. But it does tend to be that kind of world that you're in. You're in unusual positions. You're quite often got your bum in the air and things like this. So if you've got any insecurities, those might get a little bit heightened through doing this. And it's also a well-known effect, particularly with yoga, but also with Pilates, because you're holding tension. You can be a little bit strained when you're doing some of those moves. It's well known for being an exercise form and class where you can break wind quite a bit, which can be a little bit embarrassing sometimes. You'll find if you go regularly that you wouldn't be the only one doing it, and probably people will have a little bit of a giggle. Your yoga instructor will be more than used to it, and they'll probably tell you to embrace it. But yeah, breaking wind is one of the side effects. So that could be a negative. So let's talk about the positives. So you can do it at home. It's minimal equipment. More often than not, it's just a mat or a soft floor. And so that could take away the problem with the breaking wind if you're doing it at home. Nobody can hear you or smell you. So it's an easy one to do following a YouTube clip or following a DVD or something like that. I've got DVDs myself that I use. And if you're interested, I can let you know what they are. What else? It's very, very low impact. So there's no jumping around, anything like that. So if you have chronic pain, if you're recovering from any injuries or harbouring any injuries, it's usually quite easy to work around that and not aggravate that anymore. It can improve your core strength, the Pilates in particular. The yoga will improve your flexibility between the two of them. They can both help your balance to some degree. So the Pilates will help your balance by improving your core stability, making you more stable. The yoga encourages a lot of kind of standing on one leg poses, this kind of thing, sort of mind-body awareness, proprioception, stuff like that. So it can help from that aspect. It will help with your muscle tone. So although you won't build a lot of strength and you won't build a lot of muscle mass, it can help the appearance of the muscles and make them look a little bit more toned and a little bit more slender. It can improve your mood and your mental well-being. As I mentioned earlier, both of them use breathing techniques throughout the exercises. And I've mentioned previously on the programme how breathing techniques can stimulate your vagus nerve and therefore can help with your parasympathetic, I can never say that, nervous system, which is the good one. That's the rest and digest rather than the fight or flight. So it helps to relax and calm your nervous system and can ease any stresses and stuff like that. Footballer Ryan Giggs, he plays for Manchester United, which is my favourite team, or he did play for them. Early on in his career, he suffered with a lot of injuries, particularly hamstring injuries at the back of the legs. Spent as much time on the injury bench as he did playing early in his career. He attributes relieving himself of those injuries to taking up yoga. He took up yoga and in fact saw such success with it that he actually got the rest of the team involved in it, and it's now widely used throughout many teams in top flight football as a means of improving the flexibility and range of motions and therefore injury prevention. And Ryan Giggs, if you don't know who he is, went on to continue playing for Manchester United into his 40s, which is unusual for a player, especially to be playing at top level football for that long. So from an injury prone start to his career when he was sort of in his late teens and early 20s, to continue to play it all the way into his 40s is quite an achievement, and he contributes that largely to yoga. So if that doesn't sell it to you, nothing will. It can also help, it's been shown in studies to help, this is yoga and Pilates, to help with anxiety, depression, respiratory diseases, because we've got those breathing techniques in there, multiple sclerosis, arthritis, chronic pains and back pains. So lots of benefits. Although we're not getting the cardiovascular and we're not getting the strength, we're probably not going to get any fat loss out of it as such, but still lots and lots of benefits. So would I advise doing it? Yeah, why not? Yeah. Probably not in isolation. You're going to want some other forms of exercise in there to complement what you're doing. But yeah, definitely as an addition, yeah, go for it. Yoga and Pilates, give it a go.